The jungle was alive with sound, the low hum of insects, the cry of distant birds, and the steady crunch of boots sinking into damp earth. Explorers Ben Morris and William O'Neill had been deep in the Amazon for nearly a month, charting unmapped territory for a research project. Every day felt like stepping into another century, a world untouched by time. Then, one humid afternoon, Ben's drone feed flickered. "Wait," he said, frowning at the monitor. Beneath the endless green canopy, something metallic caught the sun, a faint reflection that shouldn't have been there. "Looks like wreckage," William muttered, adjusting his headset. "But that's impossible. There's nothing out here for hundreds of miles." Hours later, after cutting through vines and roots as thick as ropes, they finally stood before it, a rusted aircraft, wedged high among colossal trees, its wings tangled in the canopy like a trapped bird. Moss draped over its fuselage, the paint long faded, but through the grime, faint markings were still visible. U.S. Army Air Corps. Ben stared up, speechless. This has to be from the war. Getting to it wouldn't be easy. The plane rested more than 50 feet above the ground, supported by decades of tree growth. But the explorers had climbed cliffs, cliffsides, and worse. Using harnesses and rope anchors, they began their ascent. The air grew thinner, the smell of rust and decay stronger. At the top, they reached the cockpit window. The glass had shattered long ago, and vines slithered through it like veins. The main door was fused shut, so William pulled out a crowbar and forced open the emergency hatch. The sound it made, a long metallic groan, echoed through the forest. Inside, their flashlights cut through the darkness. Dust and spider webs glittered in the light. The cockpit looked frozen, in time-cracked dials, shattered gauges, and a pilot's skeleton still strapped into his seat, his dog tags barely legible. Ben whispered, 70 years, maybe more. Moving toward the rear, they reached the cargo bay. The door was chained shut, rusted solid. William set his jaw and struck it with the crowbar until the lock gave way. The heavy door creaked open. Both men froze. The cargo hold wasn't filled with weapons or supplies, but with hundreds of sealed military mailbags, stacked from floor to ceiling. Some had burst open, revealing envelopes yellowed with age but perfectly preserved. The air smelled of paper and time. Ben picked one up, hands trembling. The ink had barely faded. It was addressed to Mrs. Eleanor Baker, Ohio, USA. He read the first line out loud. "My dearest Ellie, if you're reading this, I made it through another night." The words stopped him cold. These weren't just letters. They were voices from soldiers who never made it home. Ben and William sat in silence, surrounded by the whispers of the past. The jungle outside roared with life, but inside the plane, time had stopped. Every letter told a story of love, fear, and hope frozen mid-sentence. They contacted authorities, who brought in a historical recovery team. Over the next weeks, the site turned into a living museum, as each letter was carefully removed, cataloged, and preserved. News spread fast. Families across the world began receiving long-lost messages from fathers, husbands, and sons who'd vanished during the war. Months later, Ben received a letter himself, an invitation from one of the family. Inside was a copy of one of the recovered notes. The soldier had written, "If I never return, tell her I was never afraid." Ben folded it carefully, tears in his eyes. That day, he realized he hadn't just uncovered wreckage. He had given history its voice back.